Maxim of the week, the Wing Chun Maxim of the week, is when an opponent's forearm is coming. When an opponent's forearm is coming, cross over it to punch. When an opponent's forearm is coming, cross over it to punch. Now, this seems very, okay, this is angles and it might be pretty simplistic, when in fact, it's actually very effective. And if you haven't been introduced to this yet, tonight's your night, because I really like this, and I like to even draw it up on a board and a chalkboard or a whiteboard so you can see these angles. But instead of doing just a drawing on a chalkboard tonight, I'm actually going to bring someone up here and you can see it on someone, okay? And that also resonates really well and helps with the learning process when you see it in action and see it in someone. Okay, so what does it mean by when an opponent's forearm is coming, cross over it, punch? If I could get a volunteer real quick, someone come up, okay? Come on up, stand right over here so everyone can see. Now obviously the forearm of the body is from the elbow to this area. Not his whole arm, but this part, okay? So if we're talking about his arm, it's not the wrist, it's not the hand, it's not the bicep and the tricep, it's from the elbow to the middle part of his arm, his forearm, okay? His forearm. So it seems very simple enough, okay? When an opponent's forearm is coming, cross over it to punch. Now, what it is not, I'll show you right here, what it is not, is if he's coming to punch, hey, that's not it. Okay, yeah, I crossed over his forearm and I punched. But that's not what we're talking about here, okay? Obviously, he's not standing over here, he's standing right here. This was a great job of blocking, but wow, it puts me in a horrible position because of that, okay? I'm facing you guys instead of my opponent, so I am not juing with my opponent. So that's not what we're talking about. Instead of using the opposite side arm, we're going to use the same side arm, okay? The same side arm, all right? So when his punch is coming, if it's a straight line punch, you can use this. If it's an angular punch, you're not going to use this, okay? If it's an angular punch that's coming around, I'm going to have to come way over here to cross over his forearm. That's impractical. That's not going to work. So what we're talking about here is if he is coming into me or punching at me with a straight line, okay? It's one of the main concepts that you learn here in the first week of class, is that if someone is attacking you on a straight line, a great way to defend yourself and attack them back really is with an angle or on an angle. So you defeat a straight line attack with an angular attack. So we'll go on two different levels, one being this mid-level here and one being the high level here. Okay, a lot of people in America especially love to hit the head. We're headhunters, we like to hit the head. Okay, there are some people that do target the body. So first what we're going to do is focus on the body, and then we'll extrapolate the same maxim up to the head. Okay, so if he comes at me at the body, I could use my other hand here, but that's not what I want to do in this case. I'm going to cross over his forearm. Okay, so if it's a straight line here, I am going to be at an angle here. Okay, crossing over his forearm. Well, what's so significant about the forearm? Is it just the forearm that makes this all important? Well, in fact, that's not what we're talking about. The forearm, yes, we're going to cross over it, but it has less to do, this maxim has less to do with the anatomical position of the forearm than this maxim actually has to talk about the relationship with me to his core, okay, this person's core, meaning the central axis inside of his body, or the center line, the center of the mass from any perceptive view. So instead of me thinking so much about the forearm is actually only the point of contact. I'm making contact here, but I'm not stopping here. I'm stopping when my punch hits him. It just so happens that on the way to Travis's core, I run into the speed bump of his forearm. So if you look at this as a straight line, and I'm going towards his core, there's his core, there's his forearm. So in fact, it's not when an opponent's forearm is coming cross over it to punch, it just simply means, this maxim, I'm headed to his core. If I want to be outside or beat this straight line attack with an angle, the place that I'm going to actually make contact is here, at his forearm, on my way to his core, okay? So what does this look like when he's punching me in the mid area, okay? Well, I'm simply going to do a little shift. Here's a shift, right there, okay? With a wusao, there. What makes it an angle for me is not this. See, my elbow's out, that's not good. Instead, it's the shifting of my central axis through that turn, okay? The Junma turning, taking the Ichikimi-ma horse, turning it into the Doikagma, the side horse. When I add the punch and the wusao, it's there. Now I'm defeating his straight line attack on an angle, okay? So if he's here, I'm crossing over, throw the punch here, there's the straight punch, I'm going to beat it at an angle. So go ahead and throw a straight punch, there's the angle, okay? The key points here is you want your elbow lower than your wrist. You want your elbow lower than your wrist, okay? You don't want to do this. You're going to throw the punch. See how my elbow's higher than my wrist? Look where his fist is. He's hitting me. So if I don't have my elbow in position and it's heavy and I don't bury the elbow like we learned in student towel form to bury the elbow, if I don't bury my elbow, he can punch right through this angle. See? So it's useless if I don't have my elbows. In Wing Chun, all we have is our elbows. Okay, that's a simplified statement. But if you don't have your elbows, you're in trouble. So instead of this setup, you want your elbow lower than the wrist. Why? Because the elbow creates the angle of deflection and deflects a straight-on punch. Okay, deflects it off of my center, deflects it. So instead of this, shoulders up bad, elbows up bad, instead, shoulder down, elbow down, and simply keep the elbow pointed at the ground. That creates the deflection, so that's your defense, and the punch when you hit, that's your offense. So you're doing two things at one time. You're being offensive and defensive at the same time. That's last week's concept, or last week's maxim of the week, Silin Daidar, simultaneous attack and defense. So instead of doing it with two hands, which, if we're here, there is Silin Daidar, instead it's one hand. Boom, right there. You take it up here to the next level, he throws a punch. I like to call this outside and over, because I'm on the outside of his arm and I'm over his arm, but I still keep my elbow down. Okay, so the punch, there. Elbows down, wrist higher than elbow, and I'm going right at his core. Right there. Okay? Does this make sense? Okay. Well, that's the Wing Chun Maxim of the week, and outside and over is your friend. Okay? Great job.